Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is Sockbot, and this is the fastest I could have darn set this up, because today we're talking about Nintendo at E3. Now, I know that I don't talk a lot about Nintendo on this channel, ever, but today I wanted to cover E3 because I know that a lot of people are talking about this anyways, but I particularly wanted to talk about why Nintendo absolutely won E3 without even actually being there, but more importantly, how amazing and how well thought out this Direct was, to the point where I don't think a lot of other people are actually going to talk about this. But if you are new here, hi, my name is Sockbot. I make games on game creation and game theory, I guess you could say, from the perspective of an amateur game creator. So if that's interesting to you, feel free to stick around and subscribe and like the video if you like it. No pressure at always. I'm rushing because I'm very excited, but let's get right into Nintendo's E3. Now, I'm not going to go through every game, but I do have a list here that I actually want to talk about. And the theme for all of these games, the theme for Nintendo this year was, let's take everything that people have gotten super nostalgic about, especially over the past year, and release it all. And just give them everything they want, including a slightly disappointing Breath of the Wild trailer, but again, that is not the focus of this video. So today, I'm largely going to be talking about all of the big game releases that are either things that we've been waiting to see on Switch, or game series that I would have loved to see on Switch that I totally didn't expect them to actually release. So starting off, we got the announcement of a new Mario Party game, which is going to include 100 mini games from Mario Parties across the series, and also 5 boards from the N64 games. Now, I don't know if you have heard about how I feel about Mario Party, especially Super Mario Party, but I thought it was really fun, and I was woefully disappointed by the lack of boards and, well, I mean the lack of minigames in general, but I think that a lot of people were waiting to see another Mario Party, maybe not necessarily one that was definitely made with the exact same gameplay system and engine, because it all looks exactly the same, but that's kind of fine because I was a little bit disappointed with Super Mario Party, so I'm happy to see all of these boards coming back from some of the best Mario Party games. And the Mario Parties 1 through 3, I have my N64 set up right there, only for those games and maybe some occasional Mario Kart 64. And let me tell you, those boards are some of the best in the entire series. They're very fun, they're very creative. I'm hoping they bring the costumes back from the Mario Party 2 boards that they suggested, but I doubt that's going to happen because Nintendo is kind of specific over their IPs these days. But regardless, the boards themselves are very fun, and they're very classic Mario Party, and that is to say they're not Super Mario Party or Mario Party 9 and 10, where they really tried to simplify the game and kind of make it more mass appealing. And I don't think they ever really needed to do that because Mario Party is mass appealing to begin with, but yeah, super excited about that. And again, they just kind of gave us what we wanted, and that's pretty cool. Especially these days when Nintendo seems to be more and more stingy about the things that they actually release. But following that up, I apologize, I'm looking down at my list here. We saw a new WarioWare game for WarioWare Get It Together, which is one of those games that falls into the category of, why don't they release these right when every system comes out? If you haven't played a WarioWare game either on the DS, the Game Boy Advance, the Wii, I think they released 2 for the Wii and a few for the DS and maybe 1 for the 3DS at some point, they're really good games. They're really fun party games. The micro games are hilarious, and especially just playing them with friends is so much fun. And the fact that the majority of the game has lived on handhelds, where that's a little bit more difficult to do, is kind of frustrating. But even so, for my personal experience, I've played a lot of WarioWare with friends, even in single player mode, just switching back and forth, and it's actually a really funny game to watch and to just kind of observe, as you hopefully saw through the presentation. But super excited for that, and again, one of those things that was big wish list title that I just did not expect to see today, let alone in the next few years, and it's just very surprising, but definitely doesn't fall into the whole nostalgia camp. But next up, we got Metroid Dread as a tie-over game until Metroid Prime 4. And I know that a lot of people were really excited for Metroid Prime 4, hoping to see more about it today. I think because of the whole director switch and all the drama going on behind the scenes, and the fact that they restarted that game, it's not surprising we're still not seeing anything. And although I would have been frustrated, I just played through Metroid Fusion again, 6 months ago, and talked about it on this channel. Feel free to go watch my Game Boy Advance build if you haven't seen that and are interested in that sort of thing. I mean, I don't know why you would be, but I was, so yeah. But Metroid Dread looks amazing. It's the first 2D Metroid that's actually a unique 2D Metroid in, I think they said like 15 years or something. I'll put the actual date somewhere, but that was amazing and surprising and definitely played on that nostalgia trend that we were seeing during COVID, where a lot of people were picking up old games, classic games, or just games from their childhood, which at this point for a lot of us was the Game Boy Advance. Is very cool to see that they just decided to capitalize on that and make a Metroid game. And now I'm sure that this was in the works at some point. The remakes that they released for the 3DS were very well done and actually look a lot like this. So my guess is that that team just then moved on and started producing a game for the Switch kind of somewhere in there between the release of the last 3DS game and, well, now when this was announced. And so I'm sure it's not completely in response to that, but I gotta say, whether Nintendo was predicting that huge wave of nostalgia, which I can't imagine they would, because how would they predict COVID, or if this just happened to fall at a nice time, which is just probably what happened. It's still very, very exciting to me. I love the 2D Metroids. I can't wait to see, sorry, I'm too excited. I can't wait to see what they do with this game, especially because it seems to follow some of the more popular Metroid games, and especially Metroid Fusion. Like I mentioned earlier, the one thing that they took from that game that really helped drive the story and keep it feeling tense and interesting was to have the like anti-Samus, or I guess Dark Samus, following you around the whole time. I know that she wasn't called Dark Samus in that, it was like some robot name, but definitely one of the coolest parts of that game to sort of have that adversary chasing you around. And I think that that's been like a theme in a lot of the Metroid games, and it raises the tension and keeps it interesting. But there's a lot of other stuff on here. I know that Mario Golf game was shown again, and pretty much just the same thing we saw before. I'm gonna get it. It looks like it'll be fun. I'm not into golf. I particularly don't like golf because old white men scare me, but regardless, I'm very excited for the party modes in that because they look ridiculous enough to be more like party games than to like, bust out when friends are over and everyone's saying, why are we playing golf? So hopefully it looks enough like a party game to where I don't get those kinds of comments, but I guess we'll have to wait and see, and that's more of a me problem. And then I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was the first announcement of Shin Megami Tensei 5. I know we had it coming, but I'd seen the other Shin Megami Tensei games that were sort of talked about recently. I know that there was a remaster released, and I think that this was a really big announcement to have in a Nintendo Direct. And so assuming that I'm not missing something and this was the first announcement for that, very cool. I'm still confused as to like what the difference is between that and like Persona 5, especially given that they're both turn-based combat system that uses the same demons kind of, and they both have like the fusion system, but it's a really fun game regardless, so I'm not that worried. And again, it's cool to see it on Switch, and it looked really good. Another thing to mention about this is that alongside a few of the other games, like the Doom Eternal expansion pass that they talked about, not very notable, but I will say they looked a little bit too pretty and like they were running a little bit too well to be for the actual Switch. So interested to see what happens there in terms of whether or not that gameplay was actually filmed on it, or if there's a Switch Pro thing coming up soon that might not have been ready to show yet, but might be ready by the time these games release. But there's enough speculation on the internet, so I'm not going to talk about that anymore. But next up, oh my goodness, this is not the nostalgia from last summer, but nostalgia from what, like 18 years ago? When did the first Fatal Frame game come out? Or the GameCube one that I played last? I know there was one for the Wii, but most people said that one wasn't very good. And I'm pretty sure that the mobile games have not been as well received, but this is a huge deal to see a big mainline series like this that was kind of known for being on Nintendo systems to come back in such a big way. I don't know if you guys have played the Fatal Frame games, but they are very interesting. I know that the whole like horror game where you can't actually fight the villains seems like a little bit played out at this point, especially given the Outlast games have kind of taken over as like the best version of that, and they do a great job, don't get me wrong, but the way that Fatal Frame plays and the publicity that it got at the time, if you go back and watch any of that, you'll understand this is definitely a unique game in itself. And even after like successors have taken on different inspirations from Fatal Frame, it doesn't feel as helpless as those types of games like Outlast, but at the same time, you're not able to fight everything as much as you can in Resident Evil. And so it does strike a really good balance between horror and actually having some fun and tense gameplay where you really feel like you have decisions other than just running away. And I think that, yes, you do spend a lot of the game running, but it doesn't feel super powerless, and it definitely is more intriguing to me personally from a gameplay sense than something as simple as Outlast. But finally, I want to talk about Advance Wars, and this is like another one of those things like WarioWare that I just didn't see coming at all, because when has Nintendo shown this series love at all, especially in the States, especially in such a big presentation? Like, never. The Game Boy Advance games, and I think there was one on Game Boy Color too, were really, really cool, but they were also the first introduction we got here in the US to the series, despite it having been on previous Nintendo consoles in Japan. And so even then, it was sort of like a, well, we'll try it on our handhelds type of thing, not necessarily we'll try it on a mainline system. And the fact that these are full remakes with a completely new graphical system that actually look really good, I mean, it's nothing super fancy, but that wouldn't really match the series. But if you haven't played any of the Advance Wars, you probably don't know what I'm talking about. It's a wonderful tactical strategy game, and I absolutely love everything about this series. I think the characters are good. I think the story is just interesting enough to keep you going, but really you're there for the characters and the tactical gameplay, and it's done so well, and Nintendo does it in such a Nintendo way where it feels difficult. It feels like you have to use everything at your disposal, but unlike a lot of strategy games, even some people say about Fire Emblem, I wouldn't say it personally, except maybe on the old games were a little bit too advanced for me, but I feel like it's simple enough to the point where it is all about that strategy, not necessarily about, oh, I forgot how many different units I have or how to use the 50 different units I have in the best possible way. It's simpler than that, and it feels simpler than that, and that's kind of what I look for in those types of games, so that I can focus on the strategy without feeling like I need a dictionary of knowledge about the game. And I don't know, maybe people don't feel that way about a lot of strategy RPGs, but that's where I'm coming from. And to see this after, again, the huge wave of nostalgia, prices going crazy for all Game Boy Advance games, and those videos about Game Boy Advance's the like customization coming across everyone's timeline, including mine, which is why I made that video I mentioned earlier, it has just made me so impressed by Nintendo putting these games out, like 3 full nostalgia-based games that are going to just pique everybody that loved the Game Boy Advance. And it's impressive that they were able to do that all in this Direct. And maybe as a fan of the Game Boy Advance and as a fan of that series, or that time of gaming, who has only recently gone back to it and actually been able to finish them, because I had severe ADD as a child, and it was undiagnosed, and I could not finish any of my games at the time, except for a few of them. But I talk about that in videos just because, you know, remove the stigma of having ADD. But I'm just very, very excited that just as I got back into all of these, and as I know a lot of other people, I can literally tell a lot of other people did based on the price of these games and the amount that have been sold on eBay in the last year, which has just shot up like crazy. I know there's going to be a lot of other people who are also revisiting their childhood, or a lot of other Gen Z people probably that have experienced these games for the first time in the last year, as this sort of resurgence came about. And I'm super excited to see these. I know that a few of them, all of the mainline Nintendo ones are going to be released physically, obviously, but there's a few games that they talked about in there that might not be getting full physical releases, and I think Advance Wars might be one of those, but I certainly hope it does, and if it doesn't, I guarantee you that's going to be a limited run game at some point. But regardless, what did you guys think of this Nintendo E3? What did you think of the conference as a whole? Please feel free to talk about it in the comments down below, because I love talking with you guys about it, and I need more people that actually watch these things to talk to, because I feel like I'm more lecturing my friends on them than actually having a conversation on them. So if any of my friends are watching this, I sincerely apologize for that. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought. I'm very excited, obviously. I think Nintendo did a great job. I think they blew it out of the water, honestly. Definitely could have gone with a Metroid Prime 4 trailer, or a little bit more about Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, but again, I think that this surprised me and excited me way more than any of that stuff could have, but maybe it didn't do for you, so again, let me know. Regardless, thank you so much for watching. This is a long outro. I'll talk to you guys in the next video, but for now, my name is Sockbot. Have a wonderful day, and goodbye, everybody.